friends, and welcome back to our homestead. We've picked a lot of tomatoes and it's time to process them. So there are many recipes how to can tomatoes, and that's what I'm going to be doing today. I'm going to be canning tomatoes. Now you can make tomato sauce, and I have videos for that, and I will leave them links for that for you guys to review. And I have this very elaborate tomato sauce and a very basic tomato sauce, and I will leave the links for that. But today I want to do raw or cold pack tomato into a jar, and then I'm going to water bath can it. All right, so a lot of you have come to me asking me, is tomato safe enough for water bath canning? And here's the answer: yes and no. It's right there on the cusp of acidity. So as you guys know, in order for water bath canning to be safe, the foods for water bath canning have to be high acid foods, meaning that it's processed with some sort of vinegar, so it's high acid, and they will be shelf stable. If it's low acid food without vinegar, just a vegetable or just meat or just broth, it must be processed in the pressure canner because it is low acid food. Tomato is right there on the cusp. It's not too acidic, it's not too alkaline, it's like, hey, right there. So to make it shelf stable for water bath canning, I'm going to be adding some sort of a acid to it. One way is to add fresh lemon juice or lemon juice from a store-bought bottle, or citric acid. And I will guys give you the recipe for using both ways, with citric acid and with lemon from the bottle. I wish I had some fresh lemon, but I have this will do. All right, so then I'm going to be just water bath canning it, and it's going to be perfect. All right, also you guys know that you can just take a tomato, cut out the core, chop them up into little chunks, and they will be ready to go for canning. But not everyone likes to eat skins, so therefore I will first blanch it, okay, in a hot boiling water, just for about 60 seconds or so, and allow them to the skins to become nice and soft, so I can remove the skins, and then I'm going to chop them up. Okay, so let's get going. I'm just making a little X on the bottom of each tomato because it's going to help. It's going to help the skin to split. And blanching them probably for about a minute or so, and then I'm going to take them out. I'm not even going to do an ice bath. Just going to drop them in for a little bit. Make sure they're all covered by boiling water. And I'm going to take them out. Just like this, and I'm going to continue doing with all of them. Now again, you guys don't have to do this blanching process if you don't mind having a little skins in your tomatoes, but in my case we like skins off. Okay, so now I'm just going to peel this off, and look how easily this skin comes off. All right, these tomatoes are not awfully hot, it's actually just, you know, pleasant to touch. And I'm going to cut out things that I don't want. So for example, this unripened part and the little core, if there's like a little core, I'm going to cut this out. And now you have the freedom of cutting it in any shape or form you want. So I'm just going to cut in half and then slice them into slices. But you may use a cutting board if you want to. I'm just going to do it this way. It works nice and fast for me. So I have a little bit of peeling and cutting here to do. In the meantime, I have to get my jars ready as well, because the jars have to be washed and sterilized. Even though I am not using hot tomatoes or hot tomato sauce to put in those jars, they still need to be sterilized because it's going to be water bath canning. All right, so I'm just cutting everything out, and this is a little core. I'm going to give it to my chickens. All right. I like to sterilize what I'm working with. So I'm just going to sterilize my funnel, all my lids and my rings. They don't need to be boiled. I just pour boiling water over them. And while I'm working on my other things, they just sort of sit there and sterilize for a little bit. Okay, so now I need to start putting my tomatoes into the jars. I wash them and sterilize them, and they're already cooled off. Because remember that if we have a hot content, we have to put them in hot jars. If it's a cold content, we have to put them in cold or at least cool jars, okay? Because we don't want any cracking to happen. All right, so let's start jarring my tomatoes. You guys will notice that there's a lot of clear liquid. I don't know if you guys can see it on this camera. Let me move it a little bit for you so you can see it. But there's a lot of clear liquid on the bottom of the tomatoes because tomatoes are very watery fruit, if you want to call it. So it releases a lot of juice. So I'm not going to use all of that watery juice because I don't want it to separate in my jars either. So if some of it is scooped up, it's fine. If some of it left behind, that's fine as well. All right, so what is happening is right now I'm just going to be filling up my jars with about 1/2 inch of headspace, and that's all. 1/2 inch of headspace. All right, and go to the next one, and then I'm going to be adding citric acid or lemon juice, as I mentioned to you. If you using citric acid, right, per each quart, you're going to need 1/2 teaspoon of citric acid. If you guys are doing how do you call it, pints, then you need only 1/4 teaspoon of citric acid. Okay, in my case, I'm going to be using lemon juice, and I'm going to be measuring in tablespoons. All right, so ready for this? For each quart, I'm going to be putting 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. Okay, and if this was pints, I would be putting 1 tablespoon of lemon juice. Okay, now the next thing I'm going to be putting is optional. It's going to be optional. Salt. You may put salt, you may not put salt. Okay, so because these tomatoes are cut up into pieces, I'm just going to push it down a little bit to make sure that I fill up my jars to the point of 1 inch. See how much more space now in the jars after I push it down? All right, so I can add a little bit more tomatoes to each one of them. All right, get in there. Because after they process, they're going to shrink a little bit, and I don't want a lot of extra space in the jars. Okay, so I'm not going to compact them tight, but I will add a little bit so it only leaves about 1/2 inch of headspace. And again, just to refresh what headspace means, it means the space that's left between the content, the top of the content of the whatever's in the jar to the top of the jar. Okay, that's called headspace. All right. Okay, now I'm going to be putting lemon juice. And because these are quarts, I'm going to be putting 2 tablespoons to each quart. 1, 2. Okay, that's good on the lemon juice, and I need to debubble all of this. All right, good on the lemon juice. And now I have to put, and this is optional, I'm going to be putting salt, and I'm going to be putting 1 teaspoon of salt per jar. Okay, these are quarts, so if these were pints, I would put half a teaspoon, but these are quarts, so I'm putting 1 teaspoon of salt, and this is my sea salt that I have. Okay. And now I need to debubble everything, because once you start moving, you'll notice that a lot of bubbles will come up and there will be more space in the jar. Okay, last thing before I put lids on, I always like to take a paper towel, slightly moistened, and just run on the edges. Make sure that there's nothing left on the rims of the jar before I put my lids and my rings on, okay? And then I'm going to put them in my water bath canning. I set up my water bath canning outside because it's such a hot summer day today, and I don't want to make any more heat in the house if I don't have to. Okay, and that's what I'm gonna do. So again, quick reminder, because these jars are not hot, okay, finger tight. That means how tight? To my finger, meaning without any mechanical assistance. Now, because these jars are cold, not hot, I have to put them in cool water on my canner as well. Normally I put hot content into hot jars, but today my content is not hot, so I have to put it into cool water, and I just filled up my canner with cool water. All right, I'm gonna take this outside to my canner. Okay, now it's time to put them in my canner. The water is warm, but it's not hot. All right, so when I'm water bath canning, it's important that whenever I put on my jars, that the water rises at least 1 inch above the jars. Okay, and only now I'm going to turn the heat on. So do you see how there's water above the jars? Only now I'm going to turn the heat on, and I'm going to wait until it comes to a boil. And only after it comes to a boil, I'm going to set my timer for processing for 85 minutes. I know it sounds like a lot of time, but remember, the content inside is not cooked, and it needs to cook, okay? So that's why it takes a long time. So time processing for quarts is going to be 85 minutes, and I always make this tomato in the quarts. All right, I'll see you guys later. All right, friends, so a few of my cans are still in the canner right now, but this is all complete and done. And I want to just show you something to explain, because this is a very normal thing to see. Do you see all that liquid, clear liquid on the bottom of the jar? It's because we packed these jars cold raw tomatoes, and they never had a chance to evaporate their liquid. See, this jar I did by cooking first in the pot, and then I jarred them hot. So all of that extra liquid evaporated. In this case, the jars, the tomatoes never had a chance to lose that liquid. So it's totally normal and it's totally usable. So friends, I hope you are encouraged to can some of the produce, some of the vegetables that are in abundance today, because when in abundance today, we store away for tomorrow. So on this note, friends, I hope you stay encouraged and try something new.